Did you ever visit the ancient site of a gallows tree, my friends? I have. On many occasions, with a view to understanding the power of death over life, naturally. That eerie promise of another state of existence hovering over the foggy hill. It's a special experience that foreshadows the inevitable. When you have settled on the truth of existence, when you have come to terms with the finitude of life, only then will you be able to think poison or pistol, and feel no fear, because only then does death not scare you, and only then does death become an act of empowerment. Think about this. The executioner takes life, yet he's no murderer. Why? Because he kills to protect and to rinse our world of dirt. We have commissioned him to transgress our limits. In this sense, he's a hero. And like the hero, he is doomed to a life of solitude. He will disappear into the night when the job is done, because we need him. But he cannot leave what he does. But we should welcome him into our midst, celebrate him wherever we find him wandering about. O mystic forces you shall retain, over the blood and over the brain, and the footsteps you hear will be the last to reach your dying ear. Oh, your wounds will spring into a flood, and every drop cry blood for blood, and the footsteps you hear will be the last to reach your dying ear. O viewless essence thin and bare, well-nigh melted into air, and the footsteps you hear will be the last to reach your dying ear. Oh, then strange sympathies shall awake, the flesh will shiver and the nerves will shake, and the footsteps you hear will be the last to reach your dying ear. Death is always present, even when it's not present. Consider a knife. From where does a knife draw its magnetic fascination? The knife has the potential to take a life. And that's all we need to know about it. That's the dormant promise of a knife, that it can take a life just like that. Death? What is death? Death is the necessary companion of life. Without death, there can be no life. One generation must make way for the next, and on and on. It's in the nature of all things. That is why we must learn to appreciate death as the enabler of life, not the discontinuity of life. There is no end, only a series of new beginnings. Therefore, to understand how to live proper and full lives, we must first complete the apprenticeship of death. What does a child do when it enters the world? It screams in pain and suffering. This is the first act of man in every hour of every day, all over the world. Think of it. Think of how the pain of death is connected to the pain of rebirth. It's really one long scream that echoes through eternity. Every day someone asks me, who am I? Who should I be? How do I change? The shortest and ultimate way to seek rebirth is through the faculty of death, but few have the courage to carry that thought through, and that is the root of our suffering, my friends. Too many are afraid of death. They think it's the end. But it's not. Death is the beginning. Death. Death is all around us. In the artifacts of our cultures, in our languages, and our religions, no matter which faith we aspire to. And many of us fear it, but that is wrong. We should not fear it. And we can learn not to fear for it, because when we can see death coming, we take away the fear, and can embrace it, like an old friend which shall accompany us on a new journey. There is a story in the villages of the Gisa. Let me tell it to you, my friends. A young man lived in the shadow of Hazaret Sultan. Each day he sat in the sun and had no cares for what was to come. Then one day, an old woman visited him. He had no food to give her, and she passed on. The next day he found her lying dead in the road. He was terribly ashamed, for he was not ready to meet her and did not treat her with dignity. It is said to this day that man still lives in those mountains, tormented by his shame. Now, as the people of those mountains well know, death can visit at any time, and thus we must always be ready to meet her with an open heart, and with our faces turned up with dignity. Tragedy is a heavy word, and not one that I feel has any value. What is it? Tragedy is senseless, pointless death, something to be feared, fled, and fought. And we all know that is pointless. You cannot fight it. But there is another way. If we take the power from the tragedy and turn to an expectation, tragedy loses its hold upon us because we expect it with dignity. Death is not a tragedy. It's a celebration of life. A crescendo. The real tragedy is not even to die, my friends. The real tragedy is to never have lived. Death walks beside us, always, watching, keeping check, making sure that we use our time wisely. And when it comes, let us cry together. But let us cry tears of joy and happiness. Yes, you are new among us, but I sense you know death better than most. Would you speak with me alone? I come here to center myself. The water and the fire are opposites, much like the cycle of life and death, don't you think? You have much to learn, my child. I shall say the words for you. As the sun on my face, so the flame on my skin. A touch of liberation. It shall not burn me. Behold the flame. The touch of fire is as liberation. It does not burn the chosen. Look upon me, children. This is your future. The touch of flame shall be like liberation. Let me speak freely, children. There is someone here with us who has very recently lit the flame, a true servant of death. Will you make yourself known? No? Perhaps you will speak, when you feel ready. Ah, my chosen sister, I have spoken with the doctor. He will be ready when they call him in. Are you prepared? It goes well with the new ones, Sister Yıldız. They will carry our flame amongst the privileged. Are you ready for your part? Brother, it is the teacher. Is the flame safe? Good. When the time comes, carry it to the author, Craig Black. He will know what to do. Liberation shall be yours also. Bradley, it is the teacher. Have you begun the work? Why not? It is vital you join this militia soon. Your part of this is vital. Good. Do so. I cannot believe this. Again, this is most frustrating. This is infuriating. Yıldız, this is entirely unacceptable. I don't care how, but you need to get this fixed immediately. Sister Yıldız, it is all as I have foreseen. Are you prepared to take the flame into the city? Hello, Craig. It is the teacher. Are you prepared? Liberation beckons. When the time comes, I shall send a brother to you with the flame, and you will carry it into the world. We shall meet again in the shadow of Khazrat Sultan. Owen Cage, my chosen son, you brought the flame to me, and soon it shall light up the world. Prepare yourself. You shall bring liberation to an entire continent.